Hello, my name's Fiona York, back again for a bonus episode of our podcast series, GECO, 30 Years Fighting for Forests. If you listened to the last episode of the series, you'll know that we held a party in December to celebrate 30 years of GECO and an end to native forest logging in Victoria. However, as with nearly all GECO parties, things didn't quite go to plan and we had to contend with an unseasonable wet weather event with lots of flooding, rain and mud, as usual. This meant that we didn't get to do the memorial tribute to all of our forest defenders who have passed away over the years. This episode is that tribute. I'm joined today by two GECO campaigners, Anita and Kim, who will be remembering our dead legends of the forest campaign, and we'll be reading out some words that were collated by lots of GECO crew to remember all of the people that we have lost over the years. And a warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners, today's episode contains the voices of people who have passed away. So, welcome to Anita and Kim.
Hi, I'm Anita.
Hi, I'm Kim. In paying tribute to our dead legends, we also pay tribute to all the forests that we lost along the way. What ties us together is our shared love and connection to East Gippsland. The profound beauty and power of these forests inspired all of us to take action to protect them. The grief we feel is inseparable with the people. We celebrate that we've known some of the most spectacular forests in the world. It's a privilege we've all shared. We carry the memory of the forests and our people in our hearts.
It has been 1 year since Tortuguita, a forest defender, was killed by police at a forest blockade in Atlanta in the United States. This day, the day we are broadcasting, January the 18th, has now been declared the Day of the Forest Defender, in memory of Tortuguita and the fallen defenders of the earth. Memory is our weapon. Rest in power and peace, our lost forests and our forest legends.
I'm in the process of setting up a sovereign, independent state. So my independent sovereign state will cover all laws.
Vale Uncle Kevin Buzzacott, Arabunna elder and keeper of Lake Eyre. The old lake has called him home. He lived life to the fullest, always ready with precise timing, lightning accuracy and a cheeky smile to take on governments, companies and queens and kings. They never got his measure. He was always 10 steps ahead of us. He was the best of us. He never tore people down of good spirit. He always built us up. He built the fire in us all, the country and the people. He was human also, filled with insecurities as we all are, but that's what made him even more amazing. He led with humility, wisdom, love, and the world is a little brighter for having him shine amongst us all. Uncle Kevin was a mentor to many, an elder of the highest degree, a warrior, grandfather, father, brother, and son. Rest in power, old man. And those words are from our old mate Bilbo.
Uncle Albert Hayes. Uncle Albert of the Bidwell tribe led the first no consent, no jurisdiction stop work action in 2000 with Uncle Robbie Thorpe. He is immortalised on film, speaking on the top of Mount Ellery about the connections between the Bidwell and the Gunai-Kurnai clans. Uncle Albert was a magic man who always had a twinkle in his eyes and open arms for a warm hug.
Very special place. Very special. Place of overseeing all the tribes. And the Bidwelly lay on the left side of the screen. The Gunai-Kurnai are all on this side. They're taking up this side of the territory.
We'd like to acknowledge Bidwell elder Auntie Patsy Harrison. Auntie Patsy and her family, Uncle Clayton, Uncle Bevan, Auntie Connie and Auntie May came out to the Goolengook blockade in 2002 for a big community walk-in action day. Their request for logging to cease had been ignored. Led by Auntie Patsy and the Harrison family, the DNRE's unlawful exclusion zone and locked gates were ignored. Heritage surveys were conducted and nearly 100 community members walked into the forest that day to demand its protection.
We're going to put up with this crap. We don't need it. All right. Our kids don't get a fair go. It hurts us to see our country knocked down like this, you know.
We'd like to pay respects to all elders past and present from the lands that we're recording on today and the lands of East Gippsland. I'd now like to move on to some of the GECO crew that we've lost along the way. The first one that we're going to talk a little bit about is Adam Wright. So Adam first moved to Goongerah with his mum Barb in 1994, just after GECO was started. He helped us connect the newly arrived GECO rat bags with the wider Goongerah community, and he spent time at the Sellers Road and the Goolengook blockades. He's fondly remembered for driving up and down the valley in his green Holden, bringing beers and cheer, gossip and good times to all. Fail Adam.
Nick, known as Naughty Nick, one of the rat bags of Sellers Road blockade. He was funny and dedicated, always helped out and contributed heaps. Lost so young.
I remember Nick at Sellers Road.
There was a clan from Sellers Road, only 3 days to set up their humble abode. All growth and creatures to what they bestowed, to save the forest from a wood chipping load. Around a large campfire was where they all sit, conversations of plotting and bitching and wit. This was their home and they wanted to stay, but the cops came along and drive them away. Rusties and ragamuffins, sparrows and cynics, all whingers and whiners and losers and critics. We say fuck all your jobs, lifestyles and your ways. These forests are dying in the name of your pay. The DCNR
Danny was a fearless activist, locking on to block the road at Eden Woodchip Mill, even after just being chased by loggers with a chainsaw. Jesus. She lived at the Sellers Road blockade for many months, where she co-wrote the Ballad of Sellers Road. Her name was carved in the bridge over the Broadgrove River in Goongerah. She's fondly remembered by many of us.
Rusties and ragamuffins, sparrows and cynics, all whingers and whiners and losers and critics. We say fuck all your jobs, lifestyles and your ways. These forests are dying in the name of your pay.
Pete the fisherman joined the Goolengook camp in 1998. He came to us from the Friends of the Earth Forest Network just after the Woodstock Festival. He went missing between Christmas and New Year in 1998, and despite a police search of the area, he hasn't been found.
Jeff Riley was a video activist at community television Scar TV on Channel 31. He documented the early days of the Goolengook blockade, filming on the front lines and editing for broadcast on weekly activist current affairs program Access News. He was famously arrested trying to stop a bulldozer from driving through the heritage Goolengook River, refusing to sign bail and landing in the lockup in Melbourne. He died in 1999, and his legacy lives on in the film that helped make Goolengook famous.
Well, the idea event, I guess, has a beginning, a middle and an end, and I'm here to document the whole sequence, not just a portion of it.
Well, what we're going to do now, you've got enough film footage of the devices, what's happened, and we'll head down to the bottom of the hill now, please.
Are there other media?
Everyone's going the same. Please leave.
Do you have a problem with people being here not in the way?
I'm saying everyone in this coop area is in the way to please leave. Thank you.
So there's no way we can stay and not
No. Out of the coop, you've got no licence to be here. Leave. Those remaining shall be arrested. Simple. Media line will be down the bottom of the hill. Thank you.
Anna was living the activist life, was everywhere throughout the country doing all the things. Anna was loved by all who met her across Newcastle, Sydney, Goongerah, Melbourne and blockades in northern New South Wales. She's remembered for locking on at the Eden Chip Mill and being a staunch hip-hop punk warrior. Lots of actions and fundraisers and shows far and wide in the 90s and 2000s. She's deeply missed and died in the midst of her life, much too young.
Fail Anna Spanner.
Yeah.
Katie Ball. Katie Ball was a disability activist famous for locking onto a tram in an intersection in Melbourne to highlight the lack of accessible public transport. Her iconic actions in East Gippsland included locking onto the Goolengook Bridge and going up not one but two tripods, one at Goolengook Road and one at Survey Road, in her wheelchair. She's remembered for being fiercely brave and putting her trust in the blockade community. She died only aged 39 in 2004, and her ashes are spread at Goolengook.
Tash, synonymous with feral fashion, styling haircuts, nudity, and being a supportive friend. Famous for bushwalking in thigh-high boots and being the only woman arrested in Orbost for tits.
Classic.
You're sleeping under a monster machine, in a place where fairies used to dwell, in a forest so old and so serene. Now it's gone to hell. You're sleeping under a monster machine. You gotta keep your feet out of the puddles. I need body heat from a friend, so we cuddle to stop the shivering, to stop the shivering. Won't you stop me shivering?
Little Jamie. Jamie was only 16 when he arrived at GECO, yet was often the wisest voice in the GECO lounge room. Wild and fiercely independent, he fell in love with Goolengook in 1998 at Woodstock Festival and stayed living at GECO and blockading for the next 2 summer campaigns. Jamie loved the bush and found his people in East Gippsland.
Jamie. Penny. Penny was a sweet and beautiful soul who radiated sunshine. She lived at the Goolengook Fort for many years, or many months, and she had a beautiful, calming influence at the Goolengook blockade where she lived.
BB. BB bravely helped keep the Goolengook blockade going for months in the winter of 2000, allowing the continuance of the camp and protection of the forest after the bashings in February that year. And for standing naked in a circle meeting for no apparent reason that one time.
Kate Campbell. Kate was a passionate environmentalist and artist who cared deeply about the forests and tirelessly campaigned to save them. She was part of Faux Forest Network and first came to East Gippsland in 1996 as part of the women's camp. She was arrested at Goolengook blockade, locking on to a log loader. Immortalised in the Goolengook film being carried by 2 cops to the divvy van. Kate is deeply missed by many.
You talk about supporting your kids and what we're doing.
The trees are going to die, aren't they?
The trees are going to die? No, you see, the problem with that theory is that a forest is... And they coexist, and it keeps going, and each part is as important as the other part. What you're doing is destroying your children's lungs. Go!
Rhonda. Rhonda was a staunch activist and human rights advocate with a deep care for animals. She took on a communications role at the Bee Tree Camp at Goolengook, sleeping by the radio, and among many things is remembered for holding a funeral for a bird at GECO.
Nikki, or Nickety Splits. Nikki was a rebel, a fighter, and she was fierce. She had killer dance moves, a heart of gold, and a fuck you attitude. She stood up for human rights, for her community, for the forests, and for asylum seekers. She didn't take shit from anyone, and she always spoke her truth. She rocked us with her music, her pearls of wisdom, and her spirit.
Wayne. Wayne was an Orbost local, one of the few at the time who was always keen to help us out. He was our resourceful local tip connection and an early adopter of recycling and reusing the things that other people threw away. The original Orbost dumpster diver. Loved his cats and was always up for a chat.
Aaron. Famous for topless spiritedness and endless workout sessions, Aaron was one of the Sellers Road blockade crew in 1995. A talented artist, he designed the iconic GECO logo in 90s tribal style, immortalised in patches, t-shirts, hoodies for many, many years.
Miso, aka Slasher or Me Slash. Miso cared deeply about her friends and was fiercely loyal and generous. A rule breaker, she fought against injustice in all the ways she could, with a strong disdain for police and authority. A true artist in anything she put her mind to: ceramics, zines, photo shoots, band artwork, and making music. The Miso lore is that she got that name because her crew would come back to her gaff after blockades and protests to be nurtured in all the ways, just like miso soup can do.
What's coincides, I'm more of a human being than any of us. Look at Dave Gunny and Rodney King, and there's a team of it's us. The media say what the police want, the government what their buyers want. If Peter Clegg says we're criminals, well, Peter Clegg lies. He says that we're not standing up for peace, another media lie. What can a few other protesters do against uniforms, buttons and shields? Police commissioner says torture doesn't exist, but the police lie. Says the ombudsman started all out, another government lie. How can we believe these people that have always lied to us?
Cameron Muir. Cam was an inspiring musician, like a human jukebox. Name anything and he could play it. He poured his politics into his music. He formed an influential punk band named after the 1991 anti-ADEX demonstration where protesters were called nothing but a bunch of thugs and terrorists.
Biodiesel Paul. Synonymous with tree climbing and lover of the environment, he came to the forest from the duck shooting campaign, and once he saw a clear fell, he never stopped acting to try to save forests. He was famous for starting the biodiesel industry.
Jimmy, aka Jimmy and Jade Jimmy. Jimmy lived at Cabbage Tree and was a relentless forest campaigner across the state, synonymous with always having a well set up comfy camp and a coffee percolator. He was famous for de-escalation and running towards the explosion, never giving a fuck about his personal safety, and having fabulous feral fashion.
Chris. Chris was part of the first blockades at Errinundra in the 1980s as part of the Nomadic Action Group, as well as the blockades of the Daintree. He returned to East Gippsland to blockade in 2021, joining the Save Errinundra campaign at playgrounds, and was up for everything, locking onto machines, climbing tripods and getting arrested stopping logging.
He sure was. Fraser. Fraser was part of the 1997 Goolengook campaign. He was a thoughtful strategist and a skillful musician. After his involvement in East Gippsland Forest, he became a trailblazer for the Greens in Victoria, becoming one of the first Greens councillors in Melbourne and elected in 2002, and he was an advisor to many. He was the brightest of sparks and has left a hole in the movement and in the hearts of those close to him.
Riley. Riley was a relentless, dedicated justice campaigner. From forest to Indigenous sovereignty to anti-nukes and land regeneration, Riley was there. Lover of Cooper's beer, he even named his dog Cooper. Punk, travel, gardening, composting, his friends, and is missed by many. Famous for always showing up, always having your back, and having a laugh while smashing the stage.
Tell everyone the band will play. Got 80 punks and an old PA. 80 punks and an old PA. Spend the day down on the bay. 80 punks and an old PA. breathing diesel and sea spray. We'll park the van down by the quay. Plug the gear that way. We'll raise the den and let's do. Skeleton crew won't know what to do. Rail the bone to the R12. Boys, heave away. But 80 bucks in RPA.
Brandy, aka Brandy Maggot. Synonymous with Cooper's beer, stripy socks, a relentless, solid presence at any blockade campfire. Always had your back and keen for actions, famous for mumbling, being a homeless scamp with 1,000 homes as his many more loved friends, owning a nana's trolley and being highly valued ground crew for tree sitters and climbers. There's a corner on the Bonang Highway in between Deadbull and Central Goons known as Brendy's Bend, due to Brendy attempting to walk back to GECO one late evening from Deadbull and falling off the road into some blackberry bushes, where he was rescued by one of his mates, calling out faintly for help. Oh, Brendy.
Brendy. Ruben, also known as Hobgoblin, always there at the forest camps, solid in East Gippsland and the Otways, ready to set up, lock on, fight back and stand up to loggers. Famous for booze, all-nighters, hectic dance moves, always having your back, partying hard, being stomped by a stiletto and standing on a sewing needle in bare feet that went through his foot, but waiting for others to take a photo before he pulled it out. Filthy kilts and folk punk will never be the same.
Aww. I was there that night. Got stomped on by a stiletto.
Siren way to greet our fate. Beside the smiles in our wake. Boys, heave away. Got 80 bucks in RPA.
Adam, or Adam Bear. Adam was a forest warrior, one of the legendary Goolengook tree climbers and riggers, and was a gung-ho tripod builder. He was part of the radical Future Rescue Forest Ecology crew who held events teaching people to tree climb to inspire them into action. He could always be found stomping up some serious dust on the bush stuff dance floor at one of the many epic forest benefit parties and festivals.
Deb Foskey. Deb lived up the road from GECO in Cabanandra, where she moved in the early 1970s. She was a forest campaigner in the 70s and 80s in the original Errinundra Forest Campaign, which led to the creation of the Errinundra National Park. She was a great mentor and friend of GECO and understood the importance of working in the community to make change.
Jindy. Jindy was a staunch blockader. She was a dedicated and relentless presence both in the Sherwood Forest of New South Wales and in East Gippsland. She was always up for a cheeky adventure and was the pirate queen of the GECO kitchen. Missed and loved large, her strength, passion and wild free spirit will be forever remembered.
Jamesy. Jamesy found himself in Goongaroo when he and the other homeless punks he was travelling with took a wrong turn on their way to catch the ferry down to Tasmania to join the forest blockade in the world. Figuring that they were more useful in East Gippy, they started the 2008 Brown Mountain blockade. With a twinkle in his eye and Silver Princess in one hand, Jamesy locked onto a bulldozer with the other, helping to stop the old growth from being logged until the legal injunction stopped the machines permanently.
And finally, we're finishing with the legendary John Flynn.
I'll tell you all the story of a man of high renown. We knew him as the bold John Flynn, he'll never let you down. I met him at Narunga as we stirred security. We gave some fun to the SA traps, then we yelled, "Fuck off, you Yankees!" At Goongaroo he rose again to join that greeny mob. The big trees up at Ulstergrens inspired him for the job. Up a tripod, beard all thick and scruffy, feathers in his hair. Teaming up with a young Mad Dave, they made a likely pair. Singing, "Oh, John Flynn, you'll have your day. To stick it to the rednecks or the jacks or the USA. Oh, penny to a pound. Give him a cause to break some laws, he'll never let you down." At Leggy Road, Black Wallaby was there he met his match. The deer hunters from Orbost, they're keen to make a catch. They nabbed us in the Smilax and dealt the cause a blow. Well, I got off, but Flynn got done, it's all on video. Yo, oh, John Flynn, you'll have your day. Stick it to the rednecks or the jacks or the USA. Oh, a penny to a pound. Give him a cause to break some laws, he'll never let you down.
Flynny was an agent provocateur extraordinaire, with the heart of a revolutionary hero. Flynny lived for the front line to protect East Skippy's forests and tirelessly documented the action on film. He was the deep-fried tofu master and the GECO kitchen and confess recruiter, a lover of star signs and doing the dishes. He famously did a jail sit with Stewie after being arrested at Hensley Creek and refusing to sign the restrictive bail conditions. This set a precedent for bail setting for years to come. Dogged, determined, infuriating, and inspiring in equal measures. So many people came to East Gippsland because of his recruitment and fiery speeches, not to mention that bloody truck, Nemesis. Flynny meant so much to so many.
That's a pity, sir, the other one. You've got to get a leaf. Now someone needs to put those leaves out.
Why do you have to get a leaf?
Because if I sell you deep fry, I'm obligated to give you green. And the first thing that the Greens, when they win power, will be the first act of Parliament. Every deep fried food must have green.
My name is Mo, and this is a eulogy I wrote for some of my friends who passed away from the Goolengook blockade. I drive into camp at night, dusty yellow road, branches overhanging, the mist rising in the headlights. Around yet another bend, and I can see the line of cars parked in the gutter, and I pull in at the back. I walk up with a torch on my head, blinding them, so they squint up from the campfire, faces outturned, expectant. Brendy twists to look behind him, and rising, shouts the challenge. I stand where I am, head torch in his eyes, and it's quiet enough to hear a mo poke across the valley. Then I throw a pouch of chop-chop at him and laugh. It's me, you cunt. And they recognize my voice, and they smile to know that I am here. They're younger than the last time I saw them. Brendy is scrawny still, no drunkard's paunch. Robin's dreads are dark, and he's standing up straight, vibrating, barely contained. Flynny knows who I am the first time he looks at me. Years have been erased. Brendy squats down at the fireside, striped knee socks stretching from his beaten black runners, knees around his chin and cigarette papers between his feet. By the campfire, Goblin extends his arm and pats the dirt beside him, and I lean into his shoulder and laugh. Flynny squeezes another glass of wine from the bladder in his pocket and grins into his beard. Well, well, well. About fucking time you turned up, says Brendy, lighting a ciggy. I turn to look into Robin's face, and he shrugs and makes that weird high whine that bends into a giggle. What's the go? I ask, and Flynny grumbles into life. Only time to save the fucking world, my dear. Brendy's eyebrows go up and up his pointed face as he delivers what he's been bursting to say, builds to the bit where we bring down modern society, defend Mother Earth, and liberate the oppressed. He's nearly jigging. Goblin lays his hands on my shoulders and brings his wild, glowing golden eyes close to mine, breathing intently into my face, shaking me to make his point. And then he breaks into a huge, hungry grin when he thinks I've understood. I walk back to the car for another jacket against the dawn chill as the black of the sky starts to thin to grey. Slowly, shapes are forming outside the circle of firelight, the edge of the tarp, the leaves of the overhanging branches. I'm thinking of how much younger they are, how much lighter. I turn back towards camp, and the shape of the pod, looming over the fire pit, sketches itself across the lightening sky. They think we're going to win this time, I'm thinking. And not just this coup, the whole box and dice. They think we're really going to bring it down. At last. Brendy and Goblin are itching to bolt into the bush. Flynny feeds the fire and climbs into the back of the truck to find his VHS camera. By now, I can see the shapes of the banners hanging across the gate, the ropes hanging from the sit, last night's empties strewn around the campfire defining themselves in the half-light. Brendy and Goblin scamper down their respective tracks, disappearing almost immediately into the understory. Really, Flynn? I ask as he emerges from the back of the truck, filling the pockets of his vest with notebooks, pens, cameras, microphones. The whole thing this time? And we're going to win? This is it, my dear, he nods, pointing his camera down the road. We can hear the machinery grumbling toward us from several bends away. This is when the bastards go down. And he shakes his jowls and his beard on the down. Colour is creeping into the world, and I can read the words on the banners now as the kookaburras start to laugh. I dig my hands into my pockets and amble up to the gate, taking deep breaths of the rich green rising fog. Flinny's camera is on me from behind, and the machinery is getting louder. I roll my shoulders back and start stringing together words in my head. The sun has risen properly now. I'm thinking, this could work. The machines have rounded the last bend into sight, and it's our time. My name's Mo, and that's a eulogy I wrote for some dead comrades from the Goolengook blockade.
Come in the middle, Flinny. Okay.
We are on this side of the river, doing what we asked them to do. Get out of Goolengook. Years of battles, and they did. We won. Then they dropped the bridge to stop us getting in. And then Mother Nature gave us a bridge to get in.
Yes.
We won because we were here, and she knows that.
You've been listening to a bonus episode of GECO, 30 Years Fighting for Forests. Today's episode featured the tribute words of the GECO crew to remember our dead forest defenders, read by me, Fiona, Kim and Anita. A eulogy to Maggot, Hobgoblin and Flinny was read and written by Mo. Additional audio from 3CR's Earth Matters and the Goolengook Story. Post-production by 3CR's Juliet Fox, and music on today's show was the Goolengook song by John Fraser, Sellers Road, written by Danny and performed by Elisa, Monster Machine by Madeleine Hudson, Media Lies by Thugs and Terrorists, 80 Punks and an Old PA by Mutiny, and The Ballad of John Flynn, written and performed by Jai Cooper. Rest in power and peace, our lost forests and our lost forest legends. Thanks for listening.